Or some GOP reaction on the Trump agenda. Let's bring in New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. It is always a pleasure to have you as well, because I know you get what the congressman was just talking about there. He's saying, hey, listen, we have to protect the American people. And the border is not just states like Texas and Arizona and California. The border now, frankly, Congresswoman, is everywhere.
That's right. And cities like mine, New York, have certainly seen the brunt of this mass illegal migration that was created by Joe Biden. We saw how many people, thousands and thousands of people. In fact, thousands have actually committed crimes in New York City. These are individuals that the mayor forced taxpayers to house in luxury hotel rooms in Manhattan and across our city. And they ended up committing crimes in so many different cases, including police officers that were shot. Laken Riley's murderer was actually caught in New York City for an arrest, was released back onto the streets. So your point about ICE going back to Rikers Island is so critical to make sure that these individuals are turned over to be deported, not to be released back onto our streets to go to Georgia to kill a young innocent woman like Laken Riley. And so I think this was a good move. I'm glad that the president and Tom Homan put pressure on Mayor Adams to finally do this, because I've been calling for this for quite some time. And it makes it so much easier and safer for our law enforcement to be able to take people right from the jail, as opposed to having to go into communities and find them, which is much more dangerous and risky for them.
Listen, and there's tons of righteous indignation in communities all over New York, not just in New York City, but all over the state. Listen, it's one thing to be in your ivory tower and you're fancy and you have your big house and you've got a big gated community. They're not dealing with these problems the way people on the streets are dealing with them. People who ride the trains are dealing with them. I couldn't agree with you more. Speaking of, here is Mayor Adams talking about this idea of expanding cooperation to make the citizens of New York safer. Listen here.
Rikers Island is now having some of the most dangerous people in our city. And by having ICE on Rikers Island, part of our gang intelligence, using our intel with NYPD correction officers, we could identify those gangs inside and outside on the street. There was no reason they were removed from Rikers Island.
No reason not to cooperate, and it appears, at least, finally, the city and the state are cooperating, at least in a tenuous manner, with federal law enforcement.
Yeah, look, Bill de Blasio changed these laws back in 2014. Right. And so we've seen the lack of cooperation, and it's a result of these left-wing radical policies. I'm glad that the mayor has finally stepped up here. I think he should have done it 4 years ago when he first came in. We also were able to fight to get Mayor de Blasio at the time to cooperate for sex crimes that are committed. What I would say is that the mayor always had the ability for violent offenders to detain and cooperate with ICE. He chose not to do that. They denied every single federal detainer request that they received under the Biden administration, which was only a handful, it's about 100. But think about it. If the Biden administration, who let in these criminals and released them onto our streets, is actually asking for a detainer, that means these are very dangerous, the worst of the worst. And so in that situation, the city did have the ability to cooperate under the Bill de Blasio law, and they still denied every single detainer request. So this is a new day. I'm glad he got the pressure from the president and Tom Homan to do the right thing. And let's hope that we finally get this city under control. Obviously, other things need to be changed. We still have that radical bail law. We still have sanctuary state policy that prohibits Homeland Security from accessing the DMV database, which is ludicrous. So let's hope that this is just a first step in the direction necessary to keep our city and our country safe.
And you don't want the New Yorkers to be disenfranchised by having people who are not even lawfully here have the opportunity to vote and thereby change the public policy that impacts American citizens. We could go on for quite some time. There's so many great stories out of the great state of New York, but we'll have to leave it there. Congresswoman Malliotakis, thank you so much for your time today. Have a great weekend. We appreciate it.